This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Hey everybody, so in our country, the power is with the people. And tomorrow, I encourage everyone to get out there in peaceful protest of what is happening in our country and express our voice around the country we believe in. So get out there and join the No Kings event near you. And please take care. I'll see you later. Hey.
We're going to tear up the crown.
Beautiful people, your boy, the BlackAnglosaxon, your favorite neighborhood political scientist. Today, I'm from the hood to the hill. We are going to be talking No Kings protests. We are going to be discussing, do I even want to call it a protest? Nancy Pelosi, Cory Booker. We just gonna go ahead, get into it. You know, not waste anybody's time, because I think for all of the people who are watching my content probably understand this. I do have some people who, you know, are still caught in like that partisan windmill. But, you know, as y'all saw, you had Nancy Pelosi, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, all kind of promoting this. And I really wanted to touch on it because I think it's a moment in a time to be able to address and really use an in real time example as to how these things are literally being co-opted, and how these, whatever you want to call it, rallies, because I don't even want to call it a rally. I really want to just call it a release valve or tactical pressure release for the establishment, because yes, we have a No Kings protest. The visuals though, one of them being the one that I think is the most disgusting, is that if Kamala would have won, we would be at brunch. And that speaks to the problem, that speaks to the issue, because it encapsulates what the whole dynamic of these rallies are. Because basically what's happening is people are building on the frustration of the quote unquote masses, or the disenfranchised, or those of us who live regular everyday lives. And the issue that I have with a person like Nancy Pelosi, Cory Booker, I saw Ayanna Pressley out there. I just saw a lot of, you know, entertainers and people who are figureheads and speakers who were basically coalescing around this energy, using it, infiltrating, as well as, and what I mean by infiltrating, they get the opportunity to go in and say, you know, I was marching with the people, or, you know, how Bernie Sanders and, you know, some of these people kind of do is like, you know, I was marching with King and civil rights. I was marching with these people. I was marching with those people. But really, it was just for the photo ops. You know, I'm not going to say how much time or how, you know, how long people was actually out there, but I know that people come to take photos, and sometimes they get and they leave real fast. So, you know, I know how that goes. I've seen it done, but I don't like that whole dynamic of people triaging basically that energy and using it in a multitude of different ways. And like I said, one being infiltrating, and then the other being, you have these sarcastic, you know, people who will get up here, and do y'all remember the whole kente cloth moment that they had? They'll have these conversations and they'll have these discussions about stuff like No Kings, but you got Nancy Pelosi, who's been in office since America was coming from up under the crown, right? And then you got Cory Booker, you got all of these people taking big dollar donors. You got Kamala Harris, who was out here actually promoting the No Kings protest. And it's like, but y'all was vote blue no matter who. And y'all were willing to adorn yourself, being Kamala Harris, Obama, Hillary Clinton, and all of these Democratic queens, if you want to say, to the level of kingship. Because last time I checked, y'all fall in line and do whatever the party said. Even when you talk about people on the left, last time I checked, people allow for both sides to operate as kings. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit later because I don't even necessarily think that we are in the space, and I thought about it, that our government is in a space of authoritarianism, but the fact that our government has been captured by a national, what I call corporate mercenaries, and they are the authoritative body, and they've kind of captured a democratic process where you have people who don't necessarily have the willpower or the political fortitude to push back and actually have these fights. Because you'll see over and over and over again, people come out. Recently, Obama came out and had a conversation. I forget on which podcast it was, but he was talking about the fact that they should have did and went with the single payer option. And I bring that up is because, again, when you look at even the Democratic Party and how they function with the left, they rule in an authoritative way, but they don't necessarily have to be accountable in the same way that the Republicans are and have been, because the Republicans, for what it's worth, they just balls to the wall. They don't care. They reckless. They gonna do. We know what type of time they on. We know who they with. We know who the beneficiaries of their policies are. We know what they came here for, and we know what they gonna leave with, right? Democrats are kind of a little bit more shifty. So it's harder to pin down. And these type of no kings protests is just another way where it makes it harder to kind of pin them down. Because you feel like a little bit like, yeah, they are fighting for the people. But are they really fighting for the people? Or are they using the people for photo ops? Or are they using the people to galvanize more people and bring more people in? Like I heard somebody talk about the oligarchy tour, and the oligarchy tour is another example and another form where this tactic is being used, where you're taking it and siphoning that energy off of a real issue. Because I'm not here to say that people shouldn't protest, people shouldn't gather and all of that. So before you get into that, please do not come in the comments and say that. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is you do have to be careful about people who are weaponizing and taking advantage of your energy, because these are the same people who also are talking about potentially leaning to the right. Or these are the same people who potentially talking about letting this administration do whatever it needs to do so that they can take advantage of the windfall, and they can take advantage of the chaos and the misery of people on the back of that and campaign on it, right? So are you really fighting for the people, or are you just using this moment to build a portfolio so that you can take advantage of eventually and come to a point where it is beneficial to you? And again, as a politician, you know, everybody say that's the game, but as the masses, I just want y'all to understand and hear that these are the games that's being played, and these are how they being played. And so you got to be careful when certain people align and attach themselves to certain movements or certain actions. You got to be careful as to how you are actually allowing them to take and move in these spaces, because they using you. They using you. You know, of course, like I said, the civil rights is one of those examples. You got all of these marches. You got Black Lives Matter. For what it's worth, a lot of people give Black Lives Matter flack, rightfully so. But Black Lives Matter with Darren Seals, and when it first popped off, it had a different energy. It had a different vibe. It was going in a different direction. But when you see all of these people start to congregate around these movements, these protests, quote unquote, or whatever you want to call them, it's a strategy. It's a strategy of siphoning off the energy. And I like to talk about all of these things and the mechanics of it, because I do think there's a lot of people who give out a lot of great information, a lot of very important information. But I think what we miss all of the time is how to weaponize that information, because weaponizing the information is just important as knowing the information. Because you can know all you want to, but in the games of politics and in the games of, this ecosystem that we find ourselves caught up in, if you aren't willing to take, and if you aren't willing to understand how somebody can give you something good and then come on the back and the other side of that and then take advantage of it, you will find yourself running and moving in a circle, because you aren't necessarily, you're not aware of the mechanics and how people use these tactics and layer these tactics and all of these different things, even though you have the technical information. You have what you can read in a book. You can take a test on this happened at this time, this happened at that time, this happened at this time, or this is that person and this is that person, but you don't, and you are not, and you should and need to be able to bring all of that into a space where you can put those dots together and figure out how these things are moving, right? Because it's very important that you understand not just civil rights by itself, not just Black Lives Matter by itself, not just protesting by itself or what it means to protest, but understand also how the mechanics of protesting can be co-opted. The same thing with capitalism. Capitalism inherently, none of these things really are inherently bad things. It's how people use them, or how people dissolve, disengage, or use these things against themselves. And that's what I really like to talk about, because I think that's the thing that's kind of somewhat missing, because we get so caught up in being able to, spout facts to people and shame people. And when it comes to like, oh, well, you didn't know that this was this person, or you didn't use a specific word. And I think we get so caught up in that we miss the larger picture of like, how is it actually working? Like, we could use a bunch of different words to really talk about some of the same concepts and some of the same things at a principle level. But we got to get to a point where we are understanding what's being done to us. And to all my young leftists, especially my Black leftists, y'all really need to stop doing this, because y'all are ruining y'all brand and y'all are ruining y'all image. Stop trying to talk to these old heads and stop trying to talk to these people who know what they're doing, but they continue to just keep doing it. That is a lost cause. You're talking to a wall. They know what they're doing. They know what their records are. We know what their records are. Believe what they show us. Understand the relationships. Because like I said, you can have the technical know-how. I always say it. I believe in the policies, but if you are attached to a corporation, or you get a certain amount of money from a specific place, that company or that business or that entity, however it models itself and makes its money, is not going to allow you to write policies or act or move in a way that undermine its life cycle as a corporation. And so I don't care about a person knowing. I think a lot of these people know exactly what the right thing to do is. They know exactly where to go in terms of how to make things better, which is why they usually come out of these institutions and start to talk the correct things, because they've known all along. The problem is that they're attached to people, whether it be relationships, the social capital piece, or the actual capital piece, where you're taking money and you're being pigeonholed. And some people are willing to do whatever it takes. And so we have to really just accept that, yes, we want to do something, but sometimes just doing anything is not the right thing. Sometimes I would much rather have preferred people just stayed at home or took the time to talk to their neighbor. Because as crazy as that sounds, you might get a little bit more efficacy with building in terms of just walking around your neighborhood, talking to people, maybe patronize one of your little corner stores or like a small business entity. Talk to them. Go to a meeting. They're boring, yes, but you could have used that time to do that, not to hear Democrats, establishment Democrats, talk about the same things they've been talking about no kings, when they feed the same corporations who happen to be the kings in which we are battling, because they are the true kings. They are the true sirens. See, Trump and all of these politicians, they just little minions, you know? If you ever watched Lord of the Rings, they just that little demon junk that was on a hobbit. He gonna come out and try battle, you know, for Middle Earth. But he not Sauron, though. He's not Sauron. He not up there. He not the mind, the brains. You just a minion. And I think we got to start realizing that both sides have been captured by corporate interests. And again, like I said, a lot of my people who are here, a lot of the sages, we here with it. We understand. We've been here. We've seen this. We know what the robber barons look like. We know who the thugs is. We know who the money team is. We know how the money team move. I ain't got to tell y'all. But for those who don't understand, it's always the money team. It's always the money team. And when I say the money team is the corporations. The money team is these financial markets that love speculation. The money team is all of these different stakeholder groups that sit outside of government who directly impact and influence. So we got the lobbyists. We got a nice little pot going on. But those are the kings, and they've been the kings, and they're going to continue to be the kings because they use the politicians that do the No Kings protest as a buffer. And also, they use the Trump and the GOP, the grand old party, right, as the same buffer, but just in a different way, you know? And it's convenient because it looked like a fight, but really, they eating off of both sides. Because again, even if we want to take, y'all remember the whole LGBTQ jump, right? And how that was such a huge thing and the companies was coming out and doing that, or the DEI in general, right? When it came time to stand up for a lot of people behind closed doors, like, yeah, we done with that. We was just waiting for y'all to give us the word. We ain't want to take the hit. But, we can't do that. You know what? DEI programs, they're over. They're over. And you might be saying, well, what does this have to do with that? Because they're all tactics that are used to siphon that energy that comes through real protest, that comes through real grievance, that comes through real causes and real political imagination and wanting something better from the people. It comes from a real place, but they redirect it. They redirect it. They put that little pipe on there and they go all the way around. So instead of going into your house, now we go all the way around because they didn't put the little thing in there. That's what I'm saying. And it's all different tactics at different layers. Because it's the same thing. They never cared about DEI. Nobody. None of them. It was just convenient because they wanted to get the social capital because they wanted to be deemed as good purveyors of, well-meaning things, initiatives philanthropy so that they can get more money, because I spend that money knowing that that money is going to get me more money, because I know that people, the way that they have been trained, that they're going to give me that back. Because they're like, oh yeah, they're the good guys. So you know what? We got to be the good guys, people. But now it ain't no more good guys or bad guys. Everybody just doing what they want. We in the wild, wild west. We in the wild, wild west. And don't nobody care. And that's why you got Cory Book out there. He had a fake friend named T-Bone. Fake black friend. What are you doing, sir? Again, Nancy Pelosi, she been around since the crown was down up over top of. Man, we gotta spot this stuff. Like, again, I get it. I love the people. I love people. But we just gotta get better at spotting when we being used and abused at the high level, the low levels, and the wide level. All of the levels. We gotta peep it. Like, oh, you know, oh no, I'm staying home. We watching that new It. That's what we gonna do. We gonna get some chicken. Cause I love. Yeah, I do. Got some Wingstop ghost habaneros, and they were delicious. We gonna watch a movie. We gonna watch one of these terrible Netflix movies and call it a day. Y'all not gonna have me out there doing all of that, and then you gonna come back here and talk about, oh yeah, we can't do nothing. We gotta just, walk the middle, or we gotta try to get the swing voters. Because I know that's what's coming. We gotta move right. You hear your boy Stephen A. saying it now. They gotta lean right. And what's that other little old dude? Damn, I always be talking about him too. He be saying the same thing. I forgot him. Carver, James Carver, that's what his name. Yeah, he be up there talking that crazy nonsense too. But he one of them. He looked like he go to dinner with the GOP. Like, yeah, we got him, boss. We got them. They not going nowhere. They coming back to the right. I'm telling you, you know. And that's what they do. But the corporations are the real sporting spaces. Because that's where, like, if you want to even talk about it from a parallel of bridging that financial space, how you park your social capital is you leave government and you leave these positions that these people be in, and you siphon it off for the corporations only to end up in a corporation. Or on the board. However you want to do. However you want to see fit. But that's how it goes. And those are the real kings. Those are the real kings. So, with government power protects corporate interests and not citizen welfare. Our government, I feel like, is relatively still democratic. I think the corporations just got such a stronghold. And, I'm not going to really, speak allegedly on these, internet streets. They be doing a lot of corrupt stuff. A lot of violence. A lot of people be running for their lives. And I think we really need to start understanding that these companies being national and just being able to, go anywhere for the sake of $1 is such a very hedonistic level of corruption that is beyond my imagination. And like, what I mean by that is, like, Apple, for example, I just seen an article come out saying that they was going to move a lot of their manufacturing over to India, right? And India, last time I checked, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, was a part of BRICS, And BRICS is a multinational coalition with, Russia, Iran, China, and a bunch of other countries. But one of their main goals is like to de-dollarize and collapse the dollar and make it no longer the world's reserve currency. And so when you see that, and then you have a corporation who's taken a multi-trillion-dollar economy and plopping that into another country that is working against the interests of the country in which you're housed and incorporated in for your bottom line and your shareholders, man, we're in trouble. And people are like, oh, well, invest, and all this stuff. Yeah, the investing is cool, but you got to be very, very careful about how you even approach that. Because you got to be careful about what you're incentivizing people to do. Because as Tim Cook, he's just going to say, well, look, we got to get more money back. We got to get more money back to the investors, to the shareholders. So how do we do that? Well, they got these terrorists over here, and your boy Trump, I called him, but, he's going crazy. So you know what? We're going to move it all to India. But they on the same ideological movement that China and all of the other countries are. So you building an economy by trying to take advantage of their labor. But, what do I know? I don't know. I don't know. I just think that's crazy. I think that's crazy. And then these people come back and influence the American politics, the American government, in a way that can't be competed with, because the average store owner or the regular store owner, you're not over here pillaging whole nations and whole countries. So there is no competition. The kings have always been the kings. The kings have always been the wealthy. The kings left. There were some heathens, some derelicts who left one kingdom, came to this land, conquered, pillaged, and did you know else what? Atrocity. And made their own kingdom. And they tried to do it, but people tried to put restraints on them over time. But now they coming back. Now they coming back full circle, full strength. And they like, we gonna get it this time. We gonna get it. So the real resistance starts with removing the puppeteers, removing the buffers. Because the puppets are one thing. You do got to get them out the way. But you really have to focus, and you really have to begin to pull back what is really happening. And a lot of that is informed. I was having a conversation, or not even a conversation, it was more like a dispute. But you have to get in the habit of using more direct language, because part of what I am starting to realize is the language that we use to communicate is so ambiguous that it doesn't really allow us to have conversations in an honest way. Because it's like, you just went on this whole rant of word salad. And again, I'm not saying that you can't use, I don't want to say big words, but you can use studious words, because I do think words matter. I do think larger words have their place because they capture certain concepts a little bit better, especially if we're talking about jargon in certain fields. But I feel like language has just become so pretentious, though. Is that just me? Like, I can do it, but I don't really like doing it, because it just feels like I can say that way quicker, way easier, and really still get you to understand what I'm saying. Which is also why I like talking about it in this way, in this format. Like, I don't really like going and doing all of that. But, there are none. And here we are, no kings, with a bunch of kings. And some of the kings were saying no kings. So I end no kings, many masters. Here we are, forever bastards in a nation. I couldn't think of a word to rhyme with it. But y'all catch my drift. The like button, subscribe, share. Do you agree, disagree? Were you at the No Kings protests? What you think? I don't know. But that's my 2 cents. My dollar. $5. But y'all be safe and enjoy.